Behind the Guitar is brought to you by the Martin Guitar Foundation, RCN, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Recorded live from the campus of Steel Stacks in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Ladies and gentlemen, our host, Craig Thatcher.
Welcome to Behind the Guitar. I'm Craig Thatcher, your host. Today, we'll be joined by performer and guitar virtuoso Woody Mann. With a myriad of influences, Woody has blended classical, jazz, and blues into his own unique sound. Please put your hands together as we go behind the guitar with Woody Mann. Thank you so much. Woody's going to start off with a song right away for us. Little Reverend Gary Davis,
Yes.
influence in that.
I thought of him as I was playing it.
I'm
yes.
sure you did. Woody, welcome to our stage.
Thanks, Greg. It's fantastic to be here.
Where are you originally from?
Long Island, New York.
Long Island.
Born in Queens, raised in Long Island.
Okay, and you've kind of stayed up in that area?
Yeah, I've moved out a few times, but New York keeps bringing me back. So, yeah.
And your early influences, like what made you want to pick up the guitar?
Well, I grew up in a folk music house, and Woody Guthrie and Paul Robeson and Pete Seeger and Weavers, those were the heroes of my house. And I listened to Josh White, there were some records of Leadbelly, so I sort of gravitated towards folk music. And I was in a record shop one day, and I just saw a Blind Blake record. And I just said, what a cool name. I got to get this. And there was something that attracted, I was listening to Lightning Hopkins, that whole kind of folk music. And I think back then, folk music was political. If you were, into, we were very political, my family, so folk music was part of the whole civil rights movement. And anyway, there's something that just attracted me to somebody sitting alone playing guitar. And then I just sort of gravitated into blues and folk and learned from whatever books I could learn. And when I was looking for a teacher, I couldn't find a teacher where I lived in Long Island. And I learned a couple of like Reverend Davis tunes from a book. You know, Candyman and Delia and a few other tunes. And I didn't know his music, but I heard his name, so I just looked him up out of the phone book. And I just said, I need a guitar teacher. I just looked him up, and Annie, his wife, answered the phone. And I said, can I come out for guitar lessons? And he said, yeah. And so when I went out to his house, it was the first time I heard like live guitar up front with that kind of big sort of band in the box, swing and ragtime playing. And I never heard anything like it, because I was listening to more folk music, and he was playing, really this heavy duty stuff. And I just was floored. I just said, that's it, can I study with you? And he said, okay. Wow. And that was it. So it was a period of discovery for me, because I just knew his name but not his music. So I just learned as I went. So it was really,
how old, what time frame are we
about
talking?
12.
13, really?
Yeah. It was my mother, she drove me to the lessons, so she had to.
And that was up in Harlem?
No, he lived out in Jamaica, Queens.
Jamaica, Queens, okay.
Yeah. So I lived in Long Island. So it was about an hour and a half drive. And so
certainly well worth it.
It was a great experience. And, you know, from working with Davis, and just then I met Nick Pearls, who had Yazoo Records. And, you know, back then the whole folk music and blues scene was small. So if you're into it, you kind of knew everybody after a while. And I was just lucky enough to just fall into it. I just loved the music.
And you were certainly in the right place, the right city. I mean, everything happening up there at that time.
I think so, because, that's how, even in New York, I met people like Son House and Booker White when they came into town and stuff. So sort of blues, New York was sort of a little blues mecca. You know?
Did you try to, when you met these folks, did you want, hey, can I sit in, or hey, can I play with you, or
I
did
tried.
you just try to learn from them?
Try to learn,
Yeah,
I was too young. I didn't have a career. I just wanted to learn guitar. And but when I met some of the other guys, the blues guys, I asked them to teach me stuff, but they weren't really great teachers. They just played.
They showed you things, but
yeah, if I could kind of get them to
if
do
you
it.
could get it, then you were lucky.
Yeah,
sure.
That's what was so great with Reverend Davis, because he was a teacher. He really prided himself on being a teacher. He loved to teach, and he was proud. So it was a real guitar lesson.
Yes.
You know, and so I learned a lot, and I taped all my lessons. So it was a real kind of study. Whereas with the other guys, it was more like a lick here and a lick there, one I could pick up. So it was just a fun time.
One of the most interesting aspects from your education background, I find very interesting the fact you went to Juilliard.
Yep.
Juilliard musician.
Yeah, around that time, that was the legitimate music. I was a clarinet player. Yeah. So in school, I studied, theory and clarinet, and then on the side was the illegitimate guitar, the blues and the ragtime stuff. So it's kind of a double life for a while, and but that was just part of the education, the way it was. And when I met Lenny Tristano later on, when I wanted to study more jazz and get into that, and it was he sort of said, you have to choose one instrument, the guitar or the clarinet. And by that time, it was the guitar. I mean, that was my passion. Clarinet I love clarinet too, but that was more, it didn't resonate that deeply with me, and I didn't have it in me to be a great clarinet player, but so to make the choice guitar was a no-brainer.
When you met Lenny Tristano, was he an elderly gentleman at the time, or?
Yeah, it's a good question how old he was, but he stopped performing.
He had stopped already.
Yeah, he stopped performing. He was teaching at a studio in Queens. And actually, there's two studios. They're both in Jamaica.
Okay.
But and he dedicated his life to teaching, and just an incredible teacher.
I mentioned to you that one of my former teachers lived in a commune with Lenny Tristano in the 50s and the early 60s.
Wow.
Yeah, I really learned. He was a trumpet player.
Wow. Yeah, Lenny, I'm sorry. I was just saying Lenny taught all the instruments.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Kind of like the Sandolis out of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Adolph and Dennis.
Yeah, guitar, sax, drummers, vocalists. And so he just taught improvisation. So it was a different way into the music, very different than Davis. The interesting thing to me is he lived about a mile from Davis in Queens, and they didn't know each other.
Oh my!
So I spent my youth in Jamaica, Queens. So
why don't you play another tune for us?
Sure. It's a tune called Lisboa. It's a waltz. Yeah, this is great.
Woody, before we invite our good friend, our mutual friend, and world-renowned guitar man, Mr. Dick Boak, before we talk to Dick, I just want to ask you a composition question.
Please.
Are you thinking melody a lot first, and then are you going to work out the harmonic progression, or do you get the chord progression first and then add the melody?
Both.
Both.
Sometimes I'll just get a little melody and try to harmonize the melody in different ways. Like that tune was definitely a melody. And sometimes it's just like a neat progression, and I'll try to draw a melody from that. And sometimes it's just a phrase. It takes me a long time to write a piece. I'm not one of those, composers who could sit down and just like write. It takes me like weeks and months to get an idea and try to expand it. So, and I still haven't figured out how to do it. But actually sometimes I've drawn like what I've learned like in when I went to Juilliard in school, in terms of different techniques to kind of get you out of boxes and stuff like that. But it's still a mystery. It really is.
Well, the result is beautiful.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Hearing melody played on the guitar, there was a time where it kind of disappeared.
That's right.
And now it's back with all the fingerstyle guitar players and folks like you and
you.
And Lawrence and G.E.
Yeah.
And we're going to, as I mentioned, we're going to talk to Dick Boak about some of the more technical aspects about your instrument.
Sure.
Well, this is a Woody Mann signature guitar. Beautiful little instrument. It's a performance guitar. Has a Venetian cutaway, a rounded cutaway up here, so that Woody can play all the way up into the upper registers and get the higher notes. Like Lawrence Juber's guitar, it's very plain, not a lot of fanciness. Has premium tone woods and Adirondack spruce top, mahogany back and sides for that glassine clarity that musicians want on stage and in the studio. This combination of tone woods and size is certainly a success for Woody's beautiful signature model.
Absolutely.
Why don't you play another tune for us, please?
Okay, this is seems like a lot of the tunes I write are for other musicians. This is a song for Mr. Eddie Lang, a great jazz guitar player, called Mr. Guitar.
blues, jazz, classical, and your own originality in all your music, all the music you play. It's really
Greg.
so
Means a lot coming from
awesome.
you, man.
Very
a lot
much.
coming from you. Super.
I'm holding here a copy of the DVD. This is called Harlem Street Singer, and it's about the life of Reverend Gary Davis.
Yeah.
And it features some really, really fantastic players. Along with Woody, Yorma's on here.
Yep. Yorma, John Hammond, Jack Elliott's appearance, Stefan Grossman's on there, Barry Kornfeld, Bob Weir, lots of people. And
Great.
yeah, it started out. I had the audio tapes from my lessons, and I've always wanted to do a film on Davis, and it's been a long 8-year project, and I'm really proud of the results. And
Can we discuss a little bit about your teaching? I
Yeah.
know you teach at Furpiece.
Yep.
You teach online. You have
Yep.
your own teaching.
yep, I have an online teaching website, and it's great because I have a whole video library of tunes, and plus people could send in sort of a video exchange where people send me a video and I send them a video response. So it's not live, which is nice. It's sort of at your own leisure, which is nice. It's a nice way to stay in touch with the students. I have students all over the world, so
I'm
it's
sure.
really, yeah. And but the teaching, I enjoy teaching. Some of the workshops. I teach at Yorma's Furpiece Ranch. I'm doing, usually do an annual workshop in Tuscany and a lot of European workshops. Yeah, it's a little rough, and then, but I also teach at Berkeley School of Music now, at college, where there's a roots program, which is really exciting.
Oh, I didn't
And
know
there's
that.
yeah, they're teaching fingerstyle, roots, banjo, mandolin, guitar, country blues. It's a new program. It's really exciting.
That sounds
Yeah, so
fascinating.
that's and it's sort of now all my ideas kind of come together on the website. That's kind of what I'm looking at, and
And the website is,
just Woody Man Guitar Lessons.
there
Yep,
you go.
There you go.
So I'm going home tonight and I'm going to sign up.
I don't think so, Greg.
Oh,
but,
it'll be fun. So what are you currently doing? Touring right now? Or what?
Yeah. Next week I'm going to Germany, and I spend most of the summer in Europe touring and stuff, England, but mostly overseas. More and more in this country, but not as much as overseas.
Okay.
So I'm spending my time now trying to work on the website, spending time on that, and teaching up at Berkeley, and just writing. I'm trying to spend some time writing now these days. So, and I have a new band I put together from the film called the Empire Roots Band with the great vocalist Bill Sims Jr., incredible piano player Dave Keys, and Brian Glassman on bass, and just a great quartet of. We started out doing Davis's music for the film, and now we're sort of getting into our own material, and it's just a joy working with these amazing
must be.
musicians. So hopefully we're going to get some more work, and that's the next project on the
Oh,
horizon.
we'll look forward to hearing
yeah,
that.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Why don't you play us one more song?
Sure. Let's see. There's a tune called Heading East. See if I get down. Let's see. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much,
Real
Greg.
pleasure.
Wow.
I want to thank you all
Thank you. Thanks,
for
Dick.
coming out. And until the next time, I'm Craig Thatcher, your host for Behind the Guitar. Woody, is there a song that maybe a little jam that we could do together, a blues thing, just to
Sure.
roll the credits out
Let's
here?
do it.